You're watching Public Affairs. Berkowitz is my name, and politics is our game. And we'll be doing lots of politics and public policy today because we have as our guest Phil Hand, who's running in the Illinois 9th Congressional District Democratic primary. Affordability, is that just another word for inflation?
I don't think it's just inflation. I think there's a lot of other economic pressures. But what we're seeing here, and I think this has a lot to do with why I'm running, is the really politicizing of economic policy. And when you have such a divided country, and we have only the voices from the extreme left and the extreme right, and those are what are trying to hammer out the policy in Congress, and we're missing this big middle ground where the solutions, where the country really lies. That's what's making us so ineffective. Congress really is not doing its job. It's just putting Band-Aids, and that's why we see them running up against debt caps. We don't have balanced budgets, and we're not addressing the underlying needs of the people around the affordability issue.
Inflation is always and everywhere a monetary phenomenon. Monetary phenomenon. He would say Friedman would say control the money stock and you'll have stable prices. Now people say focus on interest rates as an indicator of monetary policy. In any case, it's the Federal Reserve and the chairman of the Federal Reserve, right? Along with who else? Chairman of the Fed. Who else at the Fed sets monetary policy?
Yes, well, and all of those advisors and the underlying data that the Fed relies on. And I think that's another key aspect here is kind of accountability. Is if we can't have the smart, independent analysis and thought from the Fed and the other areas that we rely on for these key economic indicators, if we're going to be manipulating those and we're not going to be doing the proper analysis and inviting the review.
So you want the Federal Reserve to be completely independent?
Absolutely. The Federal, that's
Chairman
what it was.
of the Federal Reserve now has been Jay Powell. He was actually appointed at one point by Trump, I think, and been there quite a while.
That's what it was designed to do, right? It was designed to provide independent economic.
And yet every president tries to influence it. There's no law against that, especially if there's an election coming up and things maybe the economy is not going well. They want low interest rates. They all think low interest rates stimulate the economy. Trump's no different from LBJ, from JFK, from all of these folks, okay, from Bush 41, Bush 43. Am I right?
Well, I think you're right. I think every administration tries to get that short-term gain. And I think the Fed and the independence of all of our agencies in making those reviews is brings that fidelity for the long-term vision and strategy. Because we're working on election cycles. Presidents want re-election. They want their parties re-elected. And that's not what drives a strategic vision which makes the U.S. and its economy and its people healthy, secure, and growing.
Okay. But, under Biden, there was a quarter or two when the rate of inflation was 9%. Unheard of in the last 40 years. It was a 40-year high. I didn't hear Democrats say, we had an affordability issue. Am I wrong? Were they all yelping about affordability when under Biden, because he spent like $6 trillion just before, drove up demand, caused inflation?
Actually, I heard.
Would you agree with that? Did that happen?
I think it did happen. And what I would say is what I heard is that administration and now this administration trying to talk people out of what they're feeling. The pressures that they're feeling. They're saying, hey, let's not talk about affordability. Hey, let's not talk about inflation. We're tired of that. It's actually something else. And that's the disconnect when we're not reviewing the underlying economic indicators and then listening to people and their real live scenarios and understanding what we need to do from a policy standpoint.
But the cost of living is another word for affordability, and it is important.
Yes.
Right? CPI, Consumer Price Index, is important, right?
Yes.
It's not 9% like it was under Biden. It's been 2.5% or so. And it's been like that much of the time. Even under Biden, it came down from 9% to 2.5% to 3%, I believe, when Trump came in a year ago, right?
Well,
I mean, this is like not 9%. Yes, Trump may have misspoken and may have done some hyperbole when he said, I'm going to come in and we'll bring the prices down. I think he said that.
He said that, and we haven't seen that.
Well, you never will, okay? We're not going to have deflation. When you say you bring prices down, that means you bring the price level down. So under Biden, with 9% inflation for some quarters, over 4 years, the price level cumulatively had gone up 20%. You and I agree, we're not even going to try to do that, are we? Are we going to try to have 20% lower prices in the United States?
Well, I think that
price level.
I think that is a hard thing to do, but how do we adjust wages? How do we create the kind of opportunity where people's earnings match the price of goods? But there's other things that we're doing.
No, but now you're talking. Now you're talking like a guy who wants to be not just far left or far right. Sounds to me like you're talking about a guy who wants to be somewhat in the middle.
Well, for me, this isn't left or right. This is common sense. This is where the facts lie. This is where experts can drive us.
No, but do you want to be in the middle? Because you're in a district, Jan Schakowsky has been on the far left. The leaders in the polls, Kat Abagzela, something like that. Social influencer 27, Daniel Biss, I don't know, 20 years state rep, state senator, running for governor, now mayor of Evanston for 5 years. He's a professional Paul, isn't he? Mm-hmm. Is that you? Are you a professional Paul?
I've never been in elected office before. What drives me to this is the dysfunction of our government, the dysfunction of our Congress in not recognizing that there is a big gap between the economic reality for the people across our country, particularly in the ninth, and our economic policy and strategy. And our politics of the past just doesn't work. We need different people to get different results. And that's why I'm running.
You're a different guy.
There's no question I'm a different guy.
14 candidates in the ninth. Are you like different from any of these guys? Guys and ladies, right?
I am distinctive from anybody running in this race, both with my service record as a public servant, with my experience.
20 years in the FBI.
21 years in the FBI, working public corruption, working within agencies in the United States government, as well as some of our foreign partners, countering terror, working to secure the U.S. from an intelligence standpoint, battling public corruption, and leading hostage negotiation teams. So my ability to work with others, to listen to others, to build the kind of strategies and teams that critical, challenging, and sometimes dangerous environments create, that is my skill. And I can't think of something more necessary at this moment in our country than those skills.
So yeah, we'll jump back right soon to inflation and energy and some of those domestic policies. But since you mentioned it right now, right now as we tape today and December 15th, we've just had several shootings, whether it's in Syria, several deaths of soldiers, ISIS, no hostages there, I guess, but there's a crisis, right, to manage. We go over to Sydney, Australia. What happened there?
This is every making of a terrorist attack with anti-Semitic motivation, attacking what was a Hanukkah celebration, and
how many
indiscriminately.
killed? How many injured?
Yeah, several killed, several injured, including one of the attackers. Okay. And we saw heroic response by the community. But
one more in Brown University the same weekend.
Yes.
Another school shooting, several deaths.
And Kentucky State. Let's not forget. I mean, the rest, 72 to 120 hours have seen terror overseas, in Australia.
Okay, Phil, Andrew, give it to us quick. We're not going to go through each one. We don't have time. What's the big solution coming from Phil, Andrew, to all of those things?
Well, one is to have a clear public safety and national security policy where we are working with our partners. We are not distracted by deploying the National Guard in our cities. We are focused on doing the things that evidence-based we have proven that work in the past. And that is just hard work. Some of it's the hard work of coordinating.
Well, but this president has been, to be fair. I know you disagree with a lot of President Trump, but he did come in, and it looks like he solved the Middle East crisis the Gaza-Israel war that's been going on in one form or another for decades.
Well, I wouldn't go so
did he
far
bring
as
about peace?
solve.
Did he have? Is there fighting going on as we talk between Gaza and Israel, or is it for the moment a ceasefire and they've stopped fighting?
I think that we do have the workings of a tentative ceasefire. But what we
That's a big deal, right?
It is. There's no question it's a big deal.
Give him credit for that.
After what happened
Okay.
and Hamas's attack on Israel, the tragic and
October 7th,
unprecedented,
right?
yes, unprecedented attack, that we have this moment where we could move toward a pathway to peace. I think it's not stable at the moment, and I think it was right for the U.S. and allies to take advantage of the opportunity to set back the Iranian nuclear
Was that brought
program.
about by Trump working closely with Israel, with him saying, do what you got to do. We don't want you. We want to minimize civilian death. Israel doesn't go after civilians. Hamas does. Hamas puts themselves right above the civilians, right above people, because they'd almost like to see more Gazans die. Because do you agree? That's what Hamas is doing. And maybe some people politically are guilty of saying, oh, Israel is terrible. I don't know. In the 9th CD, your district, do more people, especially the progressives in the more progressive areas, do they almost shade toward Hamas over Israel?
Well, here's what
That's a question, yes or no?
Yes.
Do they? You don't shade toward Hamas.
I can tell you where I am. And, my vision on the Middle East is really shaped by two things. One, that I am a survivor of violence myself, and I know that violence often begets more violence, and that our security is not always guaranteed by violence. And secondly, I'm a national security professional. I've come out of working with many of our allies, Israel included, in a counterterrorism mission, as well as a counter-proliferation mission to keep Iran from getting nuclear weapons, which would incredibly destabilize
Israel
that
did
region.
that. Israel did that. A nuke strike. There are a lot of liberals, a lot of Democrats who said this is the beginning of a major war, terribly irresponsible. He seems to at least slow down, if not take out, the nuclear capability of Iran, which has slowed him down to be the leading state terrorist in the world.
Well,
Would you give him, were you in agreement of that strike, that taking out the nuclear capability by the U.S. of Iran? Were you
yes.
with that?
Given the circumstance that the Israelis had a long-term operation where they were able to defeat Iranian air defenses and created an opportunity, particularly where there was a lack of clarity of compliance by the Iranians with the nuclear agreement.
So you're 100% behind Israel and behind Trump and that process.
I would say,
and those military procedures.
I would say that I am 100% the idea, and for anybody that has a vision for peace for the Middle East and is willing to do the things that move that region to a stable, safe environment for as many people as possible, recognizing that we've got some big challenges, that we've got a regime in Iran that continues to try to destabilize, and they have proxies that are willing to do anything they can to destabilize that proxy. But that we've got a humanitarian crisis that we need to be surging into support, making sure it gets to real Gazans and not Hamas.
And not through Hamas. You're with Israel. Hamas cannot be part of governing Gaza.
I'm with anybody.
Are you with that statement, or would you let Hamas be involved in governing Gaza?
I think that based on what Hamas has done, that I don't think that they can be a legitimate partner in this process until they lay down their arms and they agree that they are going to be peaceful in moving forward with a vision.
And they're not going to be shooting missiles constantly into Israel. They put down their arms. They're not. They go against. They go against Iran, which says they'd like to wipe Israel off the face of the earth. Iran says that.
That's a very hard place to start a peace negotiation if somebody wants to wipe you off.
Right. So you got to say, you folks can't talk that way. You do that, you're out of here.
And not only just not talk that way, but demonstrate actual behavior.
So you're saying that some of the leaders here in this appears to be in the polling, Daniel Biss, Laura Fine, Kat. I don't think they'd agree with what you just said.
Well, I really can't speak for them.
I know you can't speak for them, but you're involved in the race.
I am involved
You
in the
know
race.
something about what their
Well,
positions
and I
are,
think
right?
part of
Does it
my,
sound like they differ from you on this?
part of my job in this race is to educate people, one, as to my background and my unique ability to bring people together and have a clear idea of a strategy.
Absolutely,
toward
but you're
that.
not going to bring Biss and Laura Fine and Kat. Hell, we're rallying around Phil Andrew. That's not ain't going
I
to
think
happen,
this,
right?
Jeff, I think this is one of the key
Maybe after you
distinctions.
win, if you win, but not
Well,
during the race.
No,
right?
you're right. This
Okay.
is one of the key distinguishers. Is I actually have a background of working in this process and helping keep people, communities, and nations safe from terror and gun violence, and that's a big differential.
We got to go back to the domestic stuff, but we got to remind people 1988, Lori Dan, they may not know that name, in Winnetka, walked into a schoolroom, Hubbard Woods, shot 6, killed 1, walked out, somehow drove over to Wilmette, walked into your house. You were safe, you were okay. Then I guess you decided you were going to disarm her, and she shot you right above your heart, right?
Yes.
And that was not fun, and you survived. So you know something about what it's like to get shot.
Well, as a survivor of one of the first mass attacks on a school in 1988, and a deranged person who the community knew, and we had a lot of opportunities for intervention, culminated an attack on the community by going into a second grade classroom, opening fire on 6 students, killing 1, in the course of her escape, crashing her car near my home, taking my mother, father, and I hostage. I was able to negotiate my folks out, but I was shot in an attempt to disarm her and nearly killed.
We could spend the whole show on that, but we're not.
Yeah.
But you know a lot, and maybe for show 2 we'll come back, a lot of things we could do that we're not doing to pick up on red flags and to intervene early. Coming attractions. Are you coming back, Phil, to do that part 2?
I'm happy to spend any time that
Okay.
you've got with me, Jeff.
Okay. So let's go back.
But just let me speak to that very quickly.
But take 30 seconds. We got to get back
Yes,
to domestic policy.
that it is not a question of knowing what to do. We are not hopeless in responding to gun violence. We know what to do. We know what works. We have evidence-based solutions. The question is, do we have the courage? And that's one of the reasons that I'm running, is because this Congress and our country has not had the courage to do what the American people want. 80% of the people want something done about this, and we continue to offer a sacrifice weekly of our children and our safety.
Okay, let's try a different type of courage. Almost everybody knows in Illinois the grid is in a major trouble. The Republican critics would say of the Democratic majority, that supermajority, that controls everything, everything, okay? So it's their policy. It's the Democratic Party's policy to say, stop coal. We don't want coal. We haven't done anything to bring back nuclear. We don't want natural gas. We're going to do wind and solar, which right now counts for what, 10% of the energy?
Well, it's
of
growing.
electricity? Oh, but what, to 12%? So that ain't going to happen in 2030, which is when they say they're cutting out coal, or 2040. It ain't going to happen. So you have to have the courage to explain to your folks who want to talk indefinitely about climate change and why all those things have to be done now. You have to have the courage, as somebody who wants to take sensible approaches. I'm with you, folks. I want to get there, but that ain't going to happen. You're going to have to do some nuclear energy, maybe micro nuclear reactors, right?
Well,
So lay it out to me. If you were going to do that, could you make a case to the Democrats? Say they got the majority in the House and the Senate, okay? It's not wise to continue down this path of not having a quality grid across this country, which we don't even have in Illinois. Now your turn.
yes. Well, first, I would say that we have a problem with our national grid, and we need to be moving to a renewable and adding nuclear to our power
What
sources.
about LNG, liquefied natural gas? Very clean, and maybe you want to get rid of it eventually, but for the near future, 10, 20, 30 years, you're going to have natural gas, aren't you? Along with nuclear?
What I see is if we need to take a strategic approach to evolving toward the cleanest and most efficient grid that we can provide. And this is a region that's going to be depending on that as we are increasing with data centers, as we are looking at quantum. This is a region that needs a very coherent strategy, but it's got to be part of a national strategy. The notion that
Illinois can do some things right now.
There's no question.
Right now, Illinois is extreme. Not everybody's doing what Illinois is doing and California is doing. There's a lot of states here are doing it quite differently and have a more reliable grid, or still relying on coal, natural gas, nuclear. Am I right? Are there a lot of states who are doing that?
There's no question, and I think these are states are trying to push us to a better place. But I think that it's again falls back on a healthier Congress to provide for that vision over a longer term implementation.
So you come back, we'll continue the discussion, and you come back next week and every week to Public Affairs.